All right, what's up, guys? This is Tom Burkart in the 2015 Cadillac Escalade Luxury All-Wheel Drive. Doing like a third road test video review because I want, and this time I do want to highlight some places where I think there is room for improvement. And this is kind of tricky because we're in like the first series of 2015 models before they did the badge change and before they had added the 8-speed automatic and made like a couple handling tweaks. But you know, where after spending a week with the car, do I feel like it you know, what are the main weaknesses that I think you as a prospective shopper would identify when you're going out to give it a try? Okay, so the first thing is this vehicle has magnetorheological ride control. So that's a very special damping feature that was pioneered by Delphi, GM's formerly in-house supplier. And this is the third generation setup, and it's very everyone, you know, is very clear on the fact that it's an amazing bit of technology, and no one's really been able to replicate it without you know, infringing on that Delphi intellectual property. So that being said, you have two settings for touring and sport in the Escalade, and I find them both like they're both like pretty firm, to be honest. The sport setting is not something that I would that I've only driven with it on for maybe like 5% of the time I've had the car, because it's like it becomes like really wobbly and feels like it, you know, it still doesn't have like the real levels of I guess that, you know, the tuning is much tighter, of course, in that setting, but you still have like pretty you have seats that don't really hold you in. You know, you have like it's hard to take that sports setting seriously without like the rest of the accompanying changes to the way the vehicle drives and handles. So it doesn't change the steering, it doesn't change the shift map or the it doesn't change the shift map or you know, like any of the other drive settings, like a lot of the new like adjustable drive controls do. So it's really just comes down to that damping in particular. So I didn't find it very nice to have it in the sport mode, but in touring mode, even in touring mode, it's like pretty firm. It's pretty firm, I have to say. We have a live axle in the back of this 2015 Escalade, which has good benefits in terms of having like a newly flat load area with the power folding third seat, and it's easy to beef up if you're doing like, you know, intense off-roading, and it's really hardy, and it has like, so the live axle like has all those benefits, but some of the downsides are like pretty pronounced as well. It can be like a little bumpy and a little choppy. So that would be like the first bucket of things. Like I wish with magnetorheological ride control, you know, if they have so much control over the tuning levels of those dampers, it would be nice if there were like an ultra comfort setting. You know, and the trade-off for that, of course, would be less like body control and less of like a sporty dynamic than the Escalade genuinely, truly brings for 2015 versus its rivals, or excuse me, versus its siblings, as well as its rivals a little bit. It's definitely a lot sportier and has a lot more confidence-inspiring handling than it ever has before. And I would say than vehicles like the Infiniti QX80 or the Lexus LX 570. And even vehicles like the Range Rover long wheelbase. I mean, you can really haul ass in this Escalade, so that's really cool. And it's great. So like on the whole, you know, the vehicle is so much better that it's like really hard to nitpick. But if you force me, and that would be something I would come up with. And then secondly is this isn't really like a big knock, I guess. You know, it's so easy to slam like infotainment systems, because as auto journalists, it's hard to get into a car and not be able to like figure it out right away. You want to think, you know, intuitively, like, okay, I'm sure I'd be able to figure out any system. But really, I mean, with the level of advanced technology that's in vehicles in this 2015 model year, I mean, it takes some time, and the Escalade's Q system is no different. So this thing takes some time to get to understand. Both in terms of like what the different steering control settings do, how the different voice commands work. The digital gauge display is really nice because it has a ton of flexibility in terms of, you know, we can flip between all these different settings, like showing just the speed or showing a full tachometer, or as well as showing the speed limit, like on the roads that you're on, which is a great feature. It shows like the media choices, what like radio station you have on, what song is on. So like there are all these different benefits, but it definitely like takes a little bit of time to figure out how to do stuff. So moving to like the center console here, with the central queue system, it's confusing at first, I have to say, but after like even just a few days in the car and a few hundred miles, I feel very confident working with all the settings. You have basically four major command centers in the top, between like entertainment, your phone settings, navigation, and climate. So while it's in one of its settings, it's sort of like it's like goes to like a full screen layout for that setting. So right now we're on navigation, and so it's like right now it's still showing the commands, but eventually like it will default to just showing the full like 8-inch map screen. And something that like seems really like idiotic, but like took me a little while to figure out, is that like there's a proximity sensor, so that it knows like when your hand is coming up to make a selection, and then more buttons like appear, and then you can select it. But if you're just looking at it and trying to figure out based on the actual like physical buttons, it can be difficult to understand like how to do like pretty basic stuff, like change the rear climate or something like that. But like I said, after you do spend a little bit of time with it and you get more familiar with the way it works, it's a piece of cake, and it has 1,000 different systems that vehicles that the previous Escalade couldn't have dreamed of. So these are all really good things. So that would be those are like the two buckets of like things where I think the Escalade could be improved. In terms of like the suspension, like it'd be nice if there was like an ultra comfort setting, and then the queue system takes a little bit of a learning curve. And then like the third thing would be like a wish list. Like this isn't any kind of like demerit on the Escalade, but I wish there was like a really sporty model. I mean, one that was like much faster than this one. I mean, it feels like the chassis can definitely handle it, but it wouldn't just be an engine. It would be nicer if there were a little bit of a lower seating position available in the very comfortable power seats. And like sportier seats with more bolsters. And of course just a lot more power and visual aggression on the outside. So we might get our wish in terms of like an Escalade V or V Sport in the coming years, and that will make like one amazing machine. I mean, already you're looking at the best Escalade ever, and easily the best of the General Motors trio of SUVs. All right, we're going to talk to the gatehouse right now, so we'll let you go. Thanks. This is Tom Burkart for Car Revs.